Is that Queen stuff over? I'm curious to see. The neighbors put their flags back out. So I guess they don't have a half staff position, so they took the flags right down when the Queen died. I kind of figured they would. They're old. They're very old. I think that's the people who are still interested in the Queen. Over here in Canada, I think it's the old people. My grandma watched that kind of stuff too on the CBC. And she did funny things like had proper tea etiquette and stuff like that. She had a tiny bit of English in her, my grandma on my mom's side. But she was not a churchgoer. She did tarot and she was shunned from the church community for that. Grandma just minded her own business and people came to her for tarot. And she followed old ways that somebody had shown her when she was a young girl. She stuck to them because they seemed true to her and they helped people. Anyway, there are three main, I don't know why I started babbling about my grandma, but she's a Virgo. She was a Virgo. And that is in the tropical Western system. Now, the tropical Western system is the one that I know the best. And that doesn't mean the other ones aren't useful for things. I find the sidereal charts fascinating, as in the true sidereal, where the sun was and where the other luminaries were in the actual constellations, because they're all different sizes, right? And then there's the sidereal system, and then there's this system where they've made a cross, a literal cross, and then the Catholic Church and all these people held this cross. And what does this cross mean? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there, but it just so happens that it fits astrology perfectly. Even when you make the bottom longer like this, the symbol of a cross is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and then Cancer. Spring equinox, summer solstice, middle of summer, last month of summer, Virgo the harvest, Libra, the fall equinox, Scorpio, the kiss of death, Sagittarius, from lower to higher mind, you could say, from Scorpio, lower to higher mind, Sagittarius, and then Capricorn, the winter solstice, Aquarius, the middle of winter, Pisces, the great abyss of the abyss. So this fits even the longer part here because Cancer is the sun out for longer, and Capricorn is where the sun dies, where it's crucified on its shortest day in the north, of course, in the north, and in the tropical system. And why did they make a tropical system? I don't know. Why did Ptolemy do this? I don't know. Why did the Vedic also start using 30 degrees equally? I don't know. Was it because they wanted to incorporate the seasons? Maybe. Is that why they're always carrying the cross and sharing this story? Is that was the main thing to keep this system going? What a trip. Why? I don't know. Was it just simply for their farming and then we've transformed it into this, using astrology for all these different divination methods? I don't know. Who knows what is made up and what they were actually doing back then? All I know is I went at it from a very simple perspective, which is I picked up the first astrology book that I found when I was coming down off a acid trip from a Scorpio. Gave me a bunch of acid when I was 16, and I found Linda Goodman's Love Signs, and I read that book front to back, and then I flipped through it again, and then I thought of everyone I ever met, and I knew everyone's birthday. I was always remembering people's birthdays and phone numbers as a child, so I knew everyone's birthday, and I referenced that book to all the people that I had known and the friends who were friends with other friends, because that book, specifically, I like that old book, goes through every sign together. So an Aries with an Aries, an Aries with a Taurus, an Aries with a Gemini, Aries with a Cancer, Aries with Leo, etc. The whole book covers every sign with every other sign. And it also covers men with women or just friends. So you can read it as just friends or actual pairing of men and women of each sign. So it's an in-depth look at these signs. So that was the only book I have read for years. Well, fully. The only book I read fully. Then after that, I met another girl who was born 2 days before me, the same year, in the same province. And we had the same mannerisms. We were at a party kind of place, and we had the same mannerisms, and then we were looking at each other, and we were both giving each other the same looks, and then finally we started talking, and we immediately both wanted to know each other's birthdays. And I forget who even asked first, but that was something that we both did. We both asked people's birthdays, and then we found out that our birthdays were so close, and then we knew a little bit of astrology each, and we knew that would mean our charts are very similar. Then we started hanging out, and we became inseparable. Nice and cozy now. And we got the only astrology book you'll ever need. And we ended up living together as young teens, just shortly after that. At age 16, we were already living on our own. And we were living in a very popular little town in BC called Nelson. And lots of transient people went there, so we met tons of people and just asked everyone's birthday and wrote them all down in books and journals and books with doodles and everything. And so we had this extensive selection of people's charts. She still has the books. My books were ripped up in a fit of temper, not by myself, but by one of my exes. I came home one day from work and found him in my room with all my journals ripped up on the floor. Every one of my journals. Yeah, he sure knew how to hurt people, that's for sure. But I also have had a lot of lessons on letting go of material things. Those were really special to me. And that wasn't the first time I had to say goodbye to a lot of material possessions that I had grown attached to, so it wasn't that bad. I didn't handle it that bad, I think, overall. Anyway, she still has the book, so it's fascinating because she will send me pictures of the pages from where I've written or she's written or I've drawn something. Or are the little astrology blurbs we would write about people that we met that were really Marsy or whatever. Anyway, I have absolutely no problem with other astrology systems, and I find them fascinating, but the one that I know best is this Ptolemy maybe created one that represents the seasons based on the tropics, where the sun gets to the Tropic of Capricorn, and that's the winter solstice. So that it also appears that the system is made in the north, because it wouldn't work if you were in Australia, because winter is not Capricorn down there, it's Cancer. The Tropic of Cancer is their winter while it's our summer. But the signs have always worked. The signs have always worked. And maybe, there's just so many maybes always buzzing through my head. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter for the purposes of what I'm going to talk to quickly in this video, if I ever get there, is this system. This system that the cross fits with, that the story of the sun dying on a cross fits on the winter solstice, is tropical Western astrology. I want to talk about that one because I know it the best, and I will now clip you to some pieces of video that I made earlier. Alrighty, if Aries is the first sign and where the zodiac resets, then it would make sense that a great reset might be in Aries, when something's in Aries. And in the old method of astro, which uses the 7 main luminaries. Sorry, I'm watching something else. Oh, I'm the worst. I have the worst mind for staying on one topic ever created. Thank you. Hashtag Mercury Pisces. It's just always fucking true. Everything I test against the system is always true. Anyway, regardless of what system you use, the system that the mainstream system seems to like to use is this one, and they're constantly referencing it. And I will point out a few things to you. So when they say a long, hard, cold winter, Saturn is the ruler of winter. Saturn, Kronos, Father Time, the one who eats his own babies. Or you could see it as the crown, the old crone. Capricorn, when the sun gets to the Tropic of Capricorn and dies on the cross, and it is the coldest, shortest amount of sunlight day up here for us. That is Saturn's realm. That is winter. And Saturn takes 2.5 years to go through a sign. So it hit Capricorn right around when Donald Trump took office. So it's funny because he's a conservative, and that's also Saturn's reign. Saturn's department is conservatism. So around that year. And then what happened in 2020 was, in the sky, what happened is Saturn conjuncted with Pluto. So everyone was talking about this could be this huge war, or David Leo King had said it's going to be a plague. And lots of people were predicting things to happen in this January 2020 conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. And lo and behold, out came the coof. And through the rest of Saturn and Capricorn, we dealt with very Capricornish issues and Saturn issues such as restrictions, limitations, and control, total control. So from Saturn and Capricorn, it went into Aquarius, which is the second month of winter, the second sign of winter, I should say. And that's where Saturn is now, in Aquarius. So the long, dark, cold winter, it's funny because it also started, the COVID also started at Pluto, the Pluto conjunction. So Pluto is far away, too far to see without a telescope. And it represents that far away place that we can't see within ourselves that's causing us to transform or something. I don't know, you can read about Pluto later. But when they conjuncted in Capricorn was when the COVID started. And we just went from there, testing everything out, going in the harshest lockdowns, very Capricornian, to a step down for some places, and loosening restrictions, more Aquarius-like, more coming out into the community and seeing what's going to work in which community better. It's always a guise of community and groups, right, with the Aquarius. Capricorn's like, I am here to rule. And Aquarius is like, oh, you're all my friends, and I'm here to rule you. But anyways, we are there. We're in Aquarius right now. And we are still in this COVID scam. In China, they just did another full month-plus lockdown where they wouldn't let people out of their houses without paperwork. And in some countries, they still have the passport and road passes. You're not allowed to go out at all unless you have a pass. So I don't see this going away anytime soon. But what I do see is people saying, great reset, great reset. Teddy, come up here. Jump. Sit there by me, buddy. And Saturn is a great leader, the great malefic, to be precise, in the Ptolemy system. This is the great bad guy bringer, the hard lesson bringer, the malefic, Saturn, the one that rules Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. And the age of Pisces, Jupiter, the joy bringer, the great benefic, the great beneficial light bringer, the joy bringer. So keep that in mind when you think about the age of Aquarius, from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, what they actually mean in the system. They're basically opposite. Jupiter is basically the opposite to Saturn. Consciousness over matter, Jupiter, or matter over consciousness, Saturn. Anyway, we know this system that they use is very Saturnian, and that is what Saturn rules in this system. The dead, cold, hard winter. And the reset spot could be when Saturn gets to Aries, which will be the end of 2025, and then it retrogrades. Like it gets there in I think August, and then it has a slow start into Aries, and then it retrogrades back into Pisces, and then for 2026, you can just say that's Saturn in Aries, because it will be for the most of that year, and that happens to be right between the great conjunction that we had, where they started saying Great Reset more. That was the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter on the solstice of 2020. So after the great conjunction of Saturn and Pluto, the two bad guys, then we had the conjunction of the leaders, Jupiter and Saturn, the liberals and the conservative. We had all the leaders coming together for the common good. Aquarius, 0 degrees. That's where they were conjunct. Saturn and Jupiter, the two great leaders in the old 7 luminary system, the oldest Ptolemy system, right? Are Jupiter and Saturn, the conservatives and the liberals. So they came together in 2020. And right in the middle of that is going to be the great reset of Saturn, starting Aries. So I was thinking that could be when they put out this new system where we're all going to be on the same phone system that China is. I've even seen videos in Tibet in very small villages where they're using their phones to pay for everything. Everything's recorded on there. They just beep a little app on their phone. So I'm thinking around 2025-26 is when they will really start that here, in the guise of, it's for public health safety, it's for everyone's safety. There's lots of criminals out there. We need to track every single thing you guys are doing so we can catch all the criminals. And then by 2029, on that solstice, we have another great opposition with those leaders. Jupiter will be opposing Saturn exactly again on that solstice. How weird is that, on 2029? So right before Agenda 2030, right before 2030, we have them opposing each other, which seems to me like a huge fight, like one last fight of Jupiter against Saturn, which is really good against evil. You could call it that in the simplest terms. Jupiter is the joy bringer, and Saturn is the hard lesson bringer. So 2029, that Agenda 2030 is in high gear right now. Anyway, that's my guess. That guess based on astrology, so I don't know. But I still don't know. I never know. It's fascinating for me to just watch stuff play out and then look at it afterwards. But I also do like to try and look ahead. So there you go.